Welcome to EV-olution, my channel about electric cars from a different perspective. My name is Andre Lawrence, and this is my brand new 2022 Kia EV6 all-wheel drive GT line Pack 2. And if you want to find out more details about it, stick around, I'll let you know in 10 seconds. If you've been following my channel since 2019, then you'll know that my wife and I purchased two electric vehicles in May of 2019, and I had my Niro EV for almost 3 years and loved it. I've made a ton of videos about it, comparing it with other electric cars, as well as reviews on different products and accessories that I've actually had in my Niro EV. But when I saw the EV6 was becoming available in Canada and saw it in this color, I melted and had to have one. Now, I was very fortunate the day they opened up the initial 200 unit reservations in Canada. I was one of the lucky few that got in. And as of the recording of this, there are about 100 units in Canada, and I've got one of them. Now, I only received this car on Thursday, so I don't know all of the little ins and outs, but I'll try and give you a quick overview and what I think my initial impressions are of this vehicle. There are some things that I just absolutely love. They fixed some of the things that bug me in the Niro EV, in the EV6, but there's something that I found a little bit disappointing in the frunk under the hood. As a spoiler, it's ridiculously useless. But if you want to know more about it, let's get on the inside. One of the things that the Kia Niro EV had as a negative point, and I hadn't realized this until my wife had mentioned it, is that on the passenger side, the center console is actually tilted a little bit towards the right. Now, as a driver, you don't see this because the center console in the Niro EV is quite straight. I actually sat in the passenger side to see what she was talking about, and I'll get some video of that up here on the screen for you to see. And what she said is that on a long road trip, it was a little bit tiring because you're constantly turning your legs to the right and you're not able to sit perfectly straight. Now, in the Kia EV6, that problem has been resolved. The center console is perfectly straight, and not only that, with the car being much wider than the Niro EV, you have plenty of legroom. So let me show you what that looks like here. As you can see, my legs are positioned as exactly as I want. I can even twist my body a little bit to the left so my legs are shifted that way, and there's tons of room. Now, this passenger seat is positioned for my wife, and it's a little bit further forward than I would like, but it still has fantastic legroom. Another improvement on the passenger seat of the Kia EV6 versus the Niro EV is the fact that the passenger seat is now electrically controlled. The Niro EV had a manually controlled seat, and that was fine, and the cost of the car is less. But it's nice to see that the EV6 now has these electric controls, and it is an 8-way position with a pneumatic lumbar support, and I thought that was a nice touch. If you've seen my preview video of the Hyundai Ioniq 5 at the Electric Car Show last year, then you'll know that one of my favorite features was the incredible panoramic roof with the electric sunshade. Now, the EV6 unfortunately doesn't have a panoramic roof, even though from the outside it looks like it, and I'll put some video of that here for you to see. It's actually just a glass panel that lifts and slides out of the way and reveals a regular sunroof inside. Now, the improvement here is that the Niro EV sunroof was nice, but I thought could have been a little bit bigger. Well, fortunately, in the Niro EV, it's a little bit longer from front to back, and because the car is wider from side to side. That's another little feature that I appreciate about this EV6. Throughout 2019 and 2020, in most of my Niro EV videos, there was one question that came back by almost every single viewer is, how do you turn off the welcome and shutdown chime when you power the car on and off? Now, the Niro EV unfortunately doesn't let you do that, and that is what leads us to this next improvement, is the EV6 actually has a startup chime, but it's not on by default. You can turn it on if it's something that you want, and the other nice thing is that it's not the default one that was in the Niro EV and in the Kia Soul EV. It's actually a new sound. It's kind of cool, but I turned it off after trying leaving it on for a day or so because I just like the silence. Let me show you how to configure that. In the multifunction buttons at the bottom, make sure that you are on the navigation or radio section and not on climate. Tap on setup. Then on the screen, you'll see you have vehicle at the top left. Just tap on that. Scroll up until you see cluster right here. and then scroll up completely, and you see you've got the welcome sound. Provides an audible tone when the cluster is turned on or off. That means when you power the car on or off. Now it's off by default. You can turn it on, and this is what it sounds like. Another detail that I appreciated as an improvement in the EV6 was the position of the drive mode button. Now the drive mode button in the Niro EV was actually in the center console. If you've seen my video about the things that I hate about the Niro EV, then you'll know that there are 73 buttons scattered around the interior of that vehicle, making it a little bit more difficult to find certain buttons when it's not something you use on a regular basis. Now that means that if you're driving the Niro and you want to change the drive mode, you actually had to take your eyes off the road to press that drive mode button, and I think that's a little bit dangerous and not quite convenient. Now the nice thing in the EV6 is it's been positioned on the steering wheel right here. Having it on the steering wheel in this position means that when you're driving, you don't actually have to look for the button. You just drop your finger down or your thumb down and press the drive mode to change it. One of my biggest pet peeves with the Niro EV was actually one of its best features, but the fact that it wouldn't stay persistent when you powered the car off and then back on was really annoying, because it meant that every time you powered the car on, you had to press that button as part of your daily routine. Now in the EV6, that has been resolved. It is the auto hold feature. Now auto hold, if you don't know what that is a feature where if you're driving your car and you come to a stop, whether it's on a hill or not, and you press the brake pedal for a second and a half, the auto hold feature turns green, meaning that you can release the brake pedal and the car will hold in place with the friction brakes. Now in the EV6, you can have auto hold turned on and it will stay turned on when you power cycle the car. This for me was one of the most exciting things. Now I know it may seem like a silly detail, but when it's something that ends up being part of your daily routine, you get in the car, power it on, put on your seatbelt, press the auto hold, put down the window, it's just one little thing, first world problems, that is quite annoying, but has been resolved in the EV6. A detail that I really appreciated in the back of the EV6 as compared to the Niro EV was the fact that you can now recline the rear seats from the trunk as opposed to having to walk around and grab the top of the seat to release the lever. Now in the EV6, you've got a lever on each side of the rear of the car that allows you to do that. And that is just over here. You grab the lever, pull it forward, and the rear seat flaps forward pretty aggressively, but locks into place. The nice thing is that you still have the option of lowering the rear seat from back here. All you have to do is grab the lever and lower the seat. Now that the seat is lowered and locked into its position, you can't lift it back up. The way to raise it back into its initial position is to pull up on the same lever and then lift the seat like this. Now while we're on the subject of this rear seat lever on the EV6, a feature that was added to the EV6 as compared to the Niro EV was the fact that both of these rear seats can recline, and pretty substantially. Now the cargo cover has two positions, a more forward position and a more rearward position, which allows for more or less reclining. And all you have to do is grab this seat lever and pull it up and recline the seat quite a bit. Now, the fact that you can recline these seats quite a bit will make for a more comfortable seating position on longer trips for rear passengers. Now, speaking of rear comfort, that is something else that's been improved in this car. The EV6's flat floor and dedicated e-gmp electric vehicle platform design allows for your feet to be a little further lower than in the Niro EV, as well as having a different bolster on the bottom part of the seat. That means that being seated here like this, I have my thighs completely supported, my feet further forward. That means that on a longer trip, I don't have to be super spread eagle to be comfortable and have support from my lower thighs. Now, I thought this was another really great improvement in the car. The last three things in the back of the EV6 that I thought were improvements over the Niro EV might be simple, but little details that improve the car in my opinion. Now, the dome light in the EV6 is just like in the Niro EV, except that it has a button to allow the rear passengers to turn the light on and off. Now that means that when you want something and you're sitting in the back seat and it's dark, you don't have to bother the driver to turn the light on through the control on the dashboard. Now, to me, that's just a little detail that helps improve things in the car. Another thing that I really liked is that in the EV6, you've got USB ports in the back of the front seats that allows the rear passengers to charge their devices, because in the Niro EV there's only the central 110 volt outlet, and I thought that that was a great feature until you realize that maybe more than one person wants to charge their device. Now, the last feature that I thought was interesting was the vents in the back of the EV6 that are on the B-pillars. Now, in the Niro EV, the rear vents are in the center console, like in most vehicles, and that's quite useful to have, except they're very low and quite far. So when you have them on the B-pillar, much more oriented towards the driver's chest, that gives them a little more comfort on drives that are colder or hotter. Now, there are a few improvements on the outside of the vehicle as compared to the Niro EV. Let's go have a look at that now. In 2018 and 2019, when the Niro EV was released in its various markets, one of the things people complained about was the fact that it didn't have a power liftgate. Now, the EV6 corrects that by adding the feature, and it's got two ways to open. One is with the key fob, and the other one is with the button that is right beside the rear camera right here. You just press and release, and the liftgate will open. Now, much like with other EVs and non-EVs that have power lift gates, there's the button to close it here, as well as the ability to adjust the height and press and hold the button, and there are menus in the car. I'll show you all of those features in another video. But for now, what I wanted to show you is to be able to close the liftgate, you can press that button, or you can also use the key fob. Something that I just learned is that to close the liftgate, you can't just press and release. You have to press and hold until the liftgate completely closes. Let me do that now. Once it's engaged, you can release the button and it will be fully closed. If you press and release the button, the liftgate will stop immediately at the position that it's in, and you'll be stuck to press the button and hold it again. One of my biggest pet peeves with the Niro EV, and I talk about this in my Things I Hate About the Niro EV video, is the charge port being in the front of the car. Now, in the winter, the charge port being in front means that when there is slush and snow and ice, that gets packed and basically makes it near impossible to open, or is very dirty and difficult, and it's bad. Now, the Niro EV fixes that by putting the charge port right here on the rear, and although that there can be dirt and snow accumulating on it, is far less a problem than when there's ice that's jammed in the front. Now, they could have put it on the side, and that would have been probably the best position for it, but in my opinion, this is way better. Now, one of the other improvements is that the charge port is now motorized. All you have to do is press right here and release, and the charge port door will open. Now, to close the charge port door, there is a button right here, and you can also, I wouldn't do it, but you can also press, and once you receive a little bit of resistance, push a little more, the charge port door will close. I prefer to use the button because that's how it was designed to be closed. In one of my previous videos for the Niro EV, I added hood struts to the car because it didn't have them, and I thought that was convenient because I would often access under the hood for windshield washer fluid and for the frunk that I added. Now, the EV6 did improve on the design by adding hood struts. Now, one of the big benefits is, if you look at the size of this hood, it is incredibly big. It is made of aluminum, so it's a little bit lighter, but it's huge. So it's nice to have these hood struts. That means when I add washer fluid in the winter multiple times, it's going to be more convenient. And that leads me to the next thing, is the frunk. You can access that as well more easily because you've got these hood struts. Now, the Niro EV did not have a frunk. I added one and I made a video about it. I'll put a link to that up here on the screen for you to look at later. Now, the frunk in the Niro EV was quite large, designed by a company in Austria, and I didn't know I needed it until I had it. I thought it was quite convenient. Well, the EV6 has a frunk, and that's an improvement over the Niro EV, but it's comically small and not very useful. Now, if you see over here, it looks quite wide, but it's this deep. Not very useful. I'll put the measurement up here on the screen for you to see. But that's only for this very small front portion. And I've got a couple things in here. I've got a little booster pack for the 12-volt battery. I've got the tow hooks as well as a screwdriver, and I've wrapped all that in bubble wrap so it doesn't rattle around. And I've also added a tire puncture kit in case I get a flat. So that's it. The frunk is there, but kind of small. You don't have to own an electric car to be part of the evolution. You can actually be part of it by buying one of these t-shirts. I've got them for sale on my website, and I'll have a link in the description below. I've got them in various sizes, as well as 3 colors. There's this right here, this is the navy blue, and I've also got heather gray like this right here, or you can get classic black like this right here. So if you're interested, head over to my website and support me by buying a couple t-shirts, or 1 or 3, it's up to you. There were a couple things that I noticed when I took my EV6 home for the first time from the dealership. And the first one was the road comfort, or the ride comfort, that is. Now, the Niro EV rides on 17-inch wheels and tires, meaning they're more squishy and can handle road bumps a little more easily than low-profile tires. And the Niro EV suspension is definitely more, I don't want to say grandpa, but more comfort-oriented, let's just say. Well, the EV6 rides on 20-inch wheels and tires and has a suspension that's a little bit more sporty, or let's say a lot more sporty. This car handles like it's on rails. And I was concerned about the ride comfort, but driving over our pretty nasty roads here in Quebec, especially after a full winter, the ride comfort was surprisingly good. Now, don't get me wrong, it is a little bit more of a sporty or harder feeling than in the Niro EV, but not quite like in the Polestar 2 and not quite like in the Tesla Model Y, which I made a video about very recently. Now, the ride is fantastic. You can feel the bumps, but it's actually quite smooth. The handling is excellent, but I will definitely be making a review video with more details about the ride comfort and the handling of this car in the future. Now, with that being said, the other thing that I noticed when I was driving my EV6 for the first time was the cabin, how quiet it is as compared to the Niro EV. Now, don't get me wrong, the Niro EV's cabin is quite quiet and is very good. But when you're sitting in the back, there's road noise that comes through the trunk area, and I was actually considering making a video about insulating the trunk with Dynamat. Now, in the EV6, I actually got a ride in the back of my car and was quite pleasantly surprised at just how quiet it is. So overall, the interior of this car is very quiet, very spacious, and the handling is not only sporty, but also quite comfortable. Now, the number of differences between the Niro EV and the EV6 is quite long, and I could go on and on about a whole bunch of things, but I'll be making a ton more videos about this car and giving you details about hidden features, accessories, maybe some upgraded wheels or downgraded wheels for winter, among other things like comparisons with other EVs, the Tesla Model Y, the Polestar 2 maybe, and a few other vehicles that come to mind. The Ioniq 5 is definitely one of them. So stay tuned to my channel. Please be subscribed. Click on that subscribe button so you don't miss any of my future videos, because I don't have a schedule where I put things out regularly. You don't want to miss them. Click that notification bell. If you like this video, please click on the thumbs up. I would really appreciate it. And thank you to everybody, because my channel has hit 1 million views, and that is a pretty big milestone. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions, there's the comment section below. You can let me know what you'd like to hear about in my EV6. And you can also check out things on my social media pages. I'll have links of that here somewhere on the screen and links down in the description below for you to check out. Now, with that being said, I really appreciate you taking the time for watching my video. Thank you very much. The center console is perfectly straight in both sides of the fudge. The passenger seat is now electrically. One of the favorite features that I have about that car is the incredible panoramic sunroof with the electric sliding guitar. You'll know that one of my favorite features about that car is the incredible panoramic sunroof roof. Sunroof roof is a sunroof electric roof. Then you'll know that one of my favorite features was that incredible panoramic sunroof. If you've seen my preview video of the Hyundai Ioniq 5, and I was a little bit disappointed because I don't see why it wouldn't be feasible. It is possible. Was the incredible panoramic roof with the electric sunshine. Now, auto hold, if you don't know what that is a feature where it's a feature. It's the new Phi chair. You still have the option of lowering the seat from the front of the rear of the car. From the front of the rear of the car. All you have to do is press and hold it, and the trunk will close or open based on... I guess it doesn't close it. No, you gotta press and hold it. Oh, look at that. I didn't know that. I just learned something new. But the charge port, when you press and release right here, hello bloopers. My Niro EV was the addition or the upgrade of the car with gas-powered hood struts. Yeah, okay.